All right, and we're going to start. Okay, so here is our agenda. I'm going to provide an overview of the process. I'm going to briefly go over the GMOA, but only briefly because we do provide you a full sample copy. We're going to go over the timeline. We're going to discuss all the documents and requirements found on that pre-qualification checklist that's on our website. And then I'm going to wrap up my section with a brief discussion on the common metrics document that is on our website. And we also encourage you to take advantage, if you are new, to take advantage of the work sessions that we have in the application phase. After that, I'm going to pass the baton to Angela, and she's going to bring it home with her use of the Community Force Walkthrough Guide to show you everything you're going to need to know to log in if you're an existing user, or to create a new account if you're a new agency to United Way. So that's the lay of the land for today. So the first thing that I wanted to tell everybody is that United Way funding, when we are focusing on our funding strategies, we want to ensure that people get the support services they need right now, while simultaneously addressing those root causes of key issues. And that's how United Way feels that we create true community impact. So we do fund at the program level, which allows all of y'all to submit multiple programs for funding in any of our 4 priority areas. So if you are currently receiving funding from one of our other priority areas, you are eligible to apply in either education or in our health priorities in this round. And we use a staggered funding schedule. We have a 2-year grant process, and we release 2 priority areas per year. And last year's focus was on the basic needs and economic mobility. And this year's laser focus is on education and health. So one of the benefits of United Way funding is that we provide operational support, giving you, the organization, the flexibility needed to determine where those resources are needed the most. Sometimes you guys can get a grant to pay for all of the books in your program to distribute, but what you can't find a grant for is staff or operational costs, like, to keep the lights on. When you apply to United Way for funding, it is operational funding. As long as it stays within that program, we rely on you, the subject matter experts, to know where you need that money the most. And I did mention that we are a 2-year grant cycle, and that gives us the time and you the time needed to see results of the program impact. We do incorporate a step-down funding strategy. So it's a 2-year grant cycle. Whatever award you receive in year 1, if you apply for $20,000 and you receive that award, then you would get $20,000 in year 1, and then $20,000 less your 15% step down in year 2. This strategy ensures that there's already sustainability built in to your program, because this is a competitive granting process, and United Way never wants to be the reason that service provision stops. We want to make sure that you already have a plan. If you don't get the grant in the next cycle, how are you going to continue these services? We provide allocations monthly. This allows the agency to constantly be infused with cash from United Way at regular intervals. That helps for just budgeting, but it also prevents our grants. The way that we do it, it prevents you guys from looking cash heavy. Sometimes when you get those grants and they're front-loaded grants, it's wonderful to have all that cash on the front end, but it can skew your financials and it can make you cash heavy depending on what time you're applying to other grants. Our emphasis is placed on those programs that address the root causes of our community's most pressing issues. But don't forget, we're always there to assist with those emergency services. And also, collaborations are encouraged to apply to our funding process. We love collaborations, and we know that to really get to the root causes of these systemic issues that we're trying to address, it takes all kinds of different people coming around the table to do their piece. So collaborations are strongly encouraged to apply. If you think you're a collaborative, give us a call so that we can talk it out to make sure, because bonus points are provided to collaboratives in our funding process. So if you are a collaborative, you want to make sure that you're letting the reviewers know that you're a collaborative. And we are 100% electronic application submission. The whole second half of your training, Angela will be walking you through the Community Force software that we use, and everything is done through that software or through email. There are also no set grant award amounts. We ask the applicants to apply for the amount they need from United Way in combination with their other funding streams to reach the impact that they are proposing in their application. So you're not going to see any set grant awards. You have to let us know how much you feel you need to achieve the outcomes that you are presenting. And just keep in mind that this is a competitive grant process. All applications are reviewed and scored using a scoring metric, but only the top 12 program submissions, and I did not change this, only the top 12 program submissions in education and the top 7 program submissions in health receive site visits and proceed in the funding process. So what this training is to do is to help you provide everything that you need to provide to us. And then the training for the application is pretty in-depth too. We don't want y'all leaving any points on the board. So the training is pretty comprehensive. And we utilize trained volunteers who are donors to United Way, who kind of have some skin in the game to evaluate the outcomes obtained by the program, the fiscal accountability and financial stewardship of the organization, and the use of nonprofit best practices as policies. So through that, they're able to determine which programs are making the greatest impact in our community by using an unbiased weighted scoring metric that allows us to quantify a largely subjective process. Another thing to note is that the reviewers are also, they're not able to know the overall score until the review is completed, and they won't know their panel review scores until after the site visits. So this helps prevent biases or being swayed by other reviewers until the process requires them to come to consensus. And programs must track pre-established goals. Those are those metrics, the education metrics and the health metrics, which we'll go over in a little while. We'll go into depth on the health metric or the metrics. This allows us to gauge and report back to our donors the amount of impact our funding is able to achieve. And it allows us to show how we are moving the needle in the areas of education, health, basic needs, and economic mobility. All right. We also, we have posted on there a copy of, on our website, of the grantee memorandum of agreement. We want you to take that back to your board to review, especially if you're a new agency to United Way, because we provide this so a significant amount of work is not expended on the application, right? Only to discover later that there are certain things in our GMOA that are going to prevent you or your board chair from signing off on it. So we give that to you in advance. Please make sure you do, if you are new, go to our website, apply for funding, scroll down, print out that grantee memorandum of agreement, and review it just to make sure that you're not putting a whole lot of work into an application that you are not able to sign off on. All right, before I go into the timeline, I want to circle back to Angela and ask, are there any questions so far that came up about the overview of the process?
Thus far, there's nothing in the chat box, and I don't see anybody unmuting themselves. I would like to ask again, because I have two of you that I'm unfamiliar with, to go over to the chat box and just type in your name and the organization that you represent. It'd be extremely helpful for us to see who's with us today.
Angela and Christy, again, this is the lowest common denominator. Jim asking another question.
No, go for it.
That's training's for, Jim.
When I went into the web page and you said hit apply and I had to do the pre-qualification, mine went right to education application and health application. Does that mean because I'm a prior recipient that I've already been pre-qualified? Is that what happens?
No, when you pulled up Community Force, you should have actually seen both education and health.
He did. That's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying. It went to education application and health application, but it didn't.
So Jim, what you're going to do is, and you'll get that in the second hour. Is
gotcha.
how to,
Okay, sorry.
How to get in. Yeah, nope. How to get into that and which one to choose and all of those things.
Yep, we're going to go over that in depth. So, all right, so let's bring it back to this timeline. If you have it printed, great. If you don't have it printed, as soon as this training is over, I recommend that you print it out. This document is just like the traffic lights. You're going to see green when it's time for you to go, and you're going to see red when it's time for you to stop. So green is when the applications open up, and red is when the deadlines are for those applications. So you're going to look on your timeline here, and the first date that you see is May 1st, because that's when our pre-qualification phase opened. You'll see our 2 training sessions that are listed there. You're at the second one, the May 19th one. And that means that you guys have, let's see, 8 days to get your to get into the software and get your documents uploaded, which is still plenty of time. I don't want you guys to stress out about that. That is still plenty of time to get in there. The next thing that I want to bring your attention to is that this is the pre-qualification phase. So after this closes down on May 27th, and you guys provide us with all your documents, then the Community Impact Committee goes back. We review all the documents to make sure that you're eligible for United Way funding. And then you're going to receive an email no later than June 24th, letting you know your eligibility. And then we start our training again on the application, and that's a 2-hour training that is in depth. We pull up the application, we go over all of the different fields, all of the information that we ask you to provide to us, as well as some really helpful hints about keeping you out of the holes that other agencies might have stepped in. And giving you some guidance as to how the reviewers tend to look at information that you're providing, just to give you a little leg up on the process. I'm going to stress this because we have a lot of new programs this cycle. Please, please, please do not come skidding in sideways on those deadlines. Those deadlines are are set in stone. At 3:59 on May 27th, the system is going to start closing down. The same thing with August 5th, you know, at 3:59, that system starts shutting down. So please don't wait to hit your final review and submit, because what happens is if you're still uploading documents and that system shuts down, then it's gonna lock you out, and it's gonna make you ineligible to receive United Way funding. So please, 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 we have had agencies in the past that have waited. Get on this as soon as possible. That way, if there are any issues, you could call Angela or I, and we can walk you through those problems. Okay. You never know when your scanner is going to decide to die on you, or to not work with your computer. So make sure that you kind of pad your deadlines accordingly. And then if you scroll down, I want to draw your attention down to the November dates. If you are a health program, or if you are submitting under the health priority area, and you make it to the top 12 or 7, your site visit is either going to be on this November 7th, November 9th, or November 10th. So if you guys can just build that into your agency calendar, just know that if you're applying for health, your site visit is going to be on the 7th, 9th, or 10th of November. And if you're an education program, your site visit is either going to be on November 14th, 15th, 16th, or 17th. So go ahead and build that into your agency calendars. We will let you know on September 28th whether you're advancing to the next round. And then right after that, we start creating the site visit schedule. So if you make it through to the application phase, and you have something that's happening then, and something like a surgery that's scheduled or something like that, let us know. So we can't give you we can't give you a preference on your time slot or your dates, but let us know so that we can work around those, okay? Any questions about the timeline? All right, Angela, no questions?
Not that I can tell.
All right, we're gonna keep on trucking. All right, so in order to be eligible for United Way funding, you must be able to answer yes to all of the questions found on the pre-qualification checklist. So and be able to upload all the requested documentation. So when you're going, once we get into the software in the second half, you're going to notice that there are no answers, and there's only a yes button, and that's because if at some point you can't answer yes to that question, you need to stop and pick up the phone and give Angela or myself a call, because you have to be able to answer yes and upload all the documentation in order to be eligible. So we want to walk you through that. It is essential that the information you upload is what is requested, and that's why we require this training to be mandatory, because just by uploading the wrong document, say you upload your, I don't know, your business license instead of your letter from the Secretary of State's office proving your 501c3 status. If you uploaded the wrong document, that could make you ineligible to proceed in the process. So we want to make sure that we go over all the documents and you know exactly what's expected for you to upload. All right, so if you have that pre-qualification checklist printed off of the website, then we could just follow that checklist, and you'll know exactly what documents are going to be required. So you must be a 501c3 organization, and you must be able to upload your federal tax ID letter from the IRS. It's going to look something like this. we learned from the last training that if it's older, it might look a little different, but this is the document that we are asking you to upload, your federal tax ID letter from the IRS. Strategic priorities. So the organization that is applying for funding must have a clearly stated human service mission, which addresses at least one of United Way's strategic priorities for this focus year, which will be education and health. And this is really how we think of your strategic priorities and how we think of the community. And United Way, we're out in the seats. We're not the conductor. You guys are up here. You know, basic needs might be the string group, and economic mobility, maybe percussion and education. You guys might be the horns, but it takes all of us working together to solve these problems. And so as long as your strategic priorities align with our funding priorities, then you are good to go with our process. Target populations. We do require that the program being submitted largely serves at-risk or underserved populations or those negatively affected by racial disparities. So that is your target population. That's what we are hoping to affect with our funding. Geographic area. So because we have so many new agencies, I wanted to make sure that the requirements are known. So the organization provides services to persons residing in Beaufort and or Jasper counties and has the ability to access and provide data on our funding area, which is Beaufort and Jasper counties. You have to have representation, and you have to be serving Beaufort and Jasper residents. Strategic plan. You know, the pandemic has done nothing but completely changed our landscape and how we utilize volunteers, how we go after funding, how our special events look. Everything has changed. So strategic plans have never been more important than now. You will need to upload a copy of your current strategic plan, and it should be dated somewhere. Usually it's either on the cover page or it's on the last page that the board chair signed and dated. But it should be dated so that we know when it was last reviewed and last updated. Okay, so your registration with the Secretary of State. We are not allowed to fund anybody who isn't in good standing with the Secretary of State's office. So the organization has to maintain a current registration as a charitable organization with the South Carolina Secretary of State, or has a current registration exemption from the South Carolina Secretary of State. Either way, you're going to have that in a letter form, and you're going to be required to upload your current registration letter or letter of exemption from the South Carolina Secretary of State's office. So we know that the deadline for agencies that are on a calendar fiscal year is May 15th. That is your deadline to have all of your information into the Secretary of State's office. Our process is smack dab in the middle of that. And you might have already sent in your registration, but you have not yet received your updated letter. If that's the case, please provide your most recent letter along with the documentation that just shows that the Secretary of State's received and is reviewing. So you should have like an email that they gave you saying, hey, thank you for submitting. We'll be reviewing and getting back to you. If you have any questions about that, please pick up the phone, give us a call. so that we can walk you through that. It's going to look like this. This is the application that you have to fill out every year. And I think it's $50. But this is the application that you have to fill out for the Secretary of State's office. Then once you fill it out, you're going to get a letter that looks like this. And it's going to say, this letter confirms that the Secretary of State's office has received and accepted your registration. Therefore, your charitable organization is in compliance with the registration requirement. And then it'll give you your date, your expiration date. Once again, if you are in process, go ahead and attach your last letter along with documentation that shows that you've already submitted your application. Are there any questions about this in particular?
Nobody's typed anything in the box yet.
All right, so I am going to say that because I mentioned if you're on a if your fiscal year is on a calendar year, you're going to be required to upload your information May 15th. If your year is not on a calendar year, then you're probably going to be one of the agencies who is required to submit their information by August 15th. So if you are one of those, then in the application, you will be uploading your updated letter. All right. So on this one, this is another one that there's no wiggle room on, I'm afraid. The organization's overhead costs can be no more than 30% of the total organizational revenue as validated by your 990. So I will say in most cases, when people are figuring out their overhead calculation, which it actually gives you on the Secretary of State's office, if your information is current, they're going to give you your overhead. If it's not current, then you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to do a computation, and that computation is in the software. It tells you exactly where to go for that information. If you are filing a 990 EZ, you're going to want to call me. So I'm just going to put that out there. Just call me. If you're a 990 EZ, call me and we'll walk you through it. Now, I am going to say that if you figure out your overhead and it is over 30%, in a lot of cases, in most cases that I see, it's not really that your overhead is 30%. It's that you might not be allocating your costs properly. And when I say that, a lot of folks will dump 100% of the executive director's salary into admin, or 100% of the your budget person into admin. And that's not the case, because we all know that, you know, that budget person is spending time in program, cutting checks and doing all of that. The executive director is spending time in program as well. So most of the time when we see an overhead higher than 30%, what you're going to want to do is really look at those numbers and make sure that you're allocating those program costs appropriately. All right, so the 990 information is taken right off the IRS website. You will be required to upload a copy of your most recent 990. Make sure that the document that you upload is the actual document that you submitted. So it should have the signatures and date at the bottom. Otherwise, we don't know if that's the one that you submitted to the IRS. And it does say right there, I don't know if you can read it, but it says Form 990, 990 EZ, or 990 PF must be filed by the 15th day of the 5th month after the end of your organization's accounting period. So they set those standards. That's not us. And that goes back to that May 15th or August 15th deadline to file your information with the Secretary of State. All right, so We require that the organization has 2 years of financial audits or generally accepted financial reporting documents, as outlined below. We feel that if you have 300,000 or below for your gross annual revenue, that what you need to provide is the audit committee assigned by your governing board needs to issue a financial report in the format approved by your board, signed off on by 3 board members. So if you are a small organization and you provide your financials, your P&L and your balance sheet to your board of directors, then that's what we need, the last approved P&L and balance sheet, and signed off on by 3 of your board members. If your gross annual revenue is 300,001 to 750,000, then we do require an independent certified public accountant to issue a review. And if you're $750,001 or above, then it's an independent audit that's required. Are there any questions about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
So we have a question.
Well, before you ask the question, I do want to just make sure that I say that it must be your most recent audit and or reports, and it has to be within the last 12 months. Okay, so it has to be in your over your last fiscal year. Okay, go ahead, throw some questions at me. I always get questions here.
Well, right now we only have one.
Okay.
It says, if you were included in another organization's 990, are you still eligible? In other words, United Way of the Lowcountry will not be able to see separate returns for our organization.
Okay, so let me just ask, are you this other entity? Is it the backbone agency of the collaborative? Therefore, your program is under them, and are they your fiscal agent?
Yes.
Okay. So what? So when you have a fiscal agent, it's on the fiscal agent. So the fiscal agent must have 2 years worth of financials, and it's going to be on this because they're the ones that are they're the ones that we have to review for your fiscal accountability and financial stewardship.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so insurance coverage. So you guys all have insurance, and you have, like, I don't know, maybe a 20 to 30 page document. That is not what we're asking you for. In most cases, you can call up your insurance company, ask them for just that summary, or a lot of them will put a summary on as the first page that just kind of summarizes your insurance. We don't need to get down into the nitty gritty. We need that summary. So if you can call them to get the summary, or if they provide the summary on the top of it, great. That's what we're looking for you to scan and upload. Okay. Inevitably, every year we have insurance companies that are faxing and sending us these summaries directly. And they'll just randomly show up on our fax machine or in our scans. Please know that if you ask the company for it, that you have to specify that they give it back to you, not to us. They can't send it to us directly. It has to be uploaded into the software. Okay, so there is a new addition to the insurance coverage. And this is brand new, so I want all of my current partner agencies to make sure that they're hearing this. We now require, we had all of our GMOA reviewed by lawyers and by other key individuals. And one of the things that they said that we were lacking is that in addition to maintaining general liability insurance and D&O insurance on behalf of the agencies, there needs to be a new requirement that United Way be named as an additional insured on your general liability insurance. and proof of coverage will be required during the GMOA process prior to releasing your first allocation check in April. So this isn't a right now thing. You don't need to go ahead and add us right now. Only if you receive a grant, an award, do you need to add us to your policy. And it's as simple as calling them. It doesn't cost anything. There's no cost increase to you as the agency. It's just in today's society, people are very litigious, and they tend to, if they're going to sue, they're going to go after every single person or organization that is associated with that program. So if United Way is providing you funding, they could realistically come after us for providing support to your program. So that is a brand new requirement. I want to make sure that everybody understands it, but it's not required until after you receive your letter stating that you have received an award. So this is going to be happening in the January, February, March timeframe. Okay. Any questions about that?
We have, would you be able to give our organization a letter to that effect?
You mean for the wording? So that they know, so the insurance company knows exactly what you're trying to accomplish?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we will give you this wording. We'll walk you through that when we are working with you to get that signed GMOA in the January, February, March timeframe. And they'll know exactly what it is as soon as you give them the spiel that we'll give you. They know about it. We actually we got all this information from Kinghorn Insurance. A lot of you guys use Kinghorn. A lot of the local agencies use Kinghorn. But yes, we will provide that. All right, Americans with Disabilities Act. No document, we don't ask you guys to upload any documentation stating that you are ADA compliant. But we want you guys to acknowledge the fact in your application that whether you are or are not ADA compliant, which you should be. Technology, you will be required to sign up for trainings on Doodle. You're going to be doing trainings via Zoom. You might physically be here. The online form has to be submitted online. You have to have the ability to convert documents to PDF format. So you have to have Adobe because most of the documents we request that you upload have to be uploaded in PDF format so that we can't do any changes to them, so that we know they are set. We use Community Force. We're going to give you all the training you need on that. But the Adobe, Doodle, and Zoom, we are hoping that you are already fully capable of doing all of those things. And if not, give us a call. All right, so we come to this counterterrorism compliance form. This form we actually provide to you as a template in the software. So when we're going over the software, Angela will show you the little blue link that you're going to click on. You're going to pull up this document. You're going to go ahead and fill it out and then turn it back to us. And all this document says is that if you are funding terrorist activity, you're going to be honest. I know you guys, I know you're going to be honest with us, and you are going to tell us that you're doing such on this form. That's just a running joke, y'all. We have to have this form. This is just one of those forms that we have to have on file for all of our current partner agencies. Right, so board of directors, you are going to be required to upload a copy of the current board list. That board list must include the names, phone numbers, home addresses, emails, and their terms. And I know that seems like a lot. We do not do anything nefarious with this information. We keep it in-house. But a lot of the emails that I send are your board chair is CC'd on. So I need to know when their terms are so that I'm CCing the right board chair. I need to know what the email addresses are for your board. We like to see, you know, where but the address is so that we can see kind of how your board is distributed. You know, is your whole board in Charleston, or is your board a local board? All of that gives us information. And then you have to be able to adhere to written bylaws. And those bylaws are reviewed at a minimum of every 5 years. I know a lot of us with those bylaws, we kind of create them, we throw them in a binder, we put them on our bookcase, and they're not really taken down. However, because of COVID and the pandemic, a lot of us have had to redo our strategic plans and redo our bylaws to allow for Zoom meetings to count and for electronic voting to happen, all of those kinds of things. So we do ask you to upload your bylaws. It's a minimum of 5 years reviewal date. We ask you to highlight when it was last reviewed, where it indicates terms for members, and how many times the board is required to meet. And we ask you to highlight this in your information before you upload it, because the reviewers are reading every single application, and some of y'all's bylaws can be quite long. So if they can just flip to it and know, okay, here it is, here's that piece, here's that piece. The happier you can keep the reviewers, the higher your scores will tend to be. So we always want to keep the reviewers happy. So make sure you highlight those and don't make them read through your whole bylaws. There is a requirement that the organization's board meets at least 4 times per year, operates with a quorum, and records minutes of their minutes for all meetings. All right, so now we're kind of drilling down to the program level, which is the level that we fund at. And I'm going to just go over these very, very quickly. The organization is able to provide a detailed program budget. We ask in the application phase, we ask for both an organizational budget and a program budget so that we can kind of see, you know, how that money is flowing through. And then that gives us a lot of information. That is not required in the pre-qual phase. We do not ask for the program budget or the organizational budget during the eligibility phase. That is in the application. Each program has to have operational plan with quantifiable objectives. Each program has a system in place to measure progress of achieving results. The program being submitted has outcome measurement tracking based on the common goals, outcomes, and key performance indicators that are on your metrics sheet. We're going to go over that in a minute. And each program has an appropriate client management system for tracking and assessing client level improvements. So that's just, once again, going back to those outcomes. If any of the organizations that are applying do not currently have an appropriate client management system, please call us. United Way of the Low Country pays for charity tracker to be provided to all of the nonprofits, free of charge to the nonprofit in Beaufort and Jasper counties. So if you don't have an appropriate client management system, you can use charity tracker free of charge, and we would get you set up on that. So if that's the case, give us a call and we will get you hooked up. All right, so if you could go ahead, if you printed out the metrics document, if you could kind of get that out in front of you, because we're gonna start talking about that.
Christy.
Yes.
Before we move on to the metrics, we do have a question. Will we be required to reference funds from outside organizations in our program budget?
Yes, there are several line items. You have governmental grants, you have non-governmental grants, you have contributions and designations, and you have special events underneath of your income lines in both the organizational budget and the program budget. So if it depends, if your organization receives a grant, an outside grant, but you're not dedicating any of that grant money to your program, it's still going to be shown in your organizational budget so that we can see the community support of your organization, but it's not going to be shown, you wouldn't show it as income in your program budget. Does that make sense?
And that is also, just to let you know, that's something you could call us about and we would be happy to meet with you. Christy is amazing at these budgets. It's kind of mind-blowing when you're in the room with her. So feel free to call us separately and we can set up a meeting for that if we need to.
Yeah, give us a call. We're here for you. So if you're having issues, please give us a call. And I hope I answered your question about the funds from outside organizations. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. So I have a little bit of housekeeping here. I have Angela had sent me a message. I need to know what LHLA means. Obviously, one of you guys signed in with your acronym and we don't know what that is. So if you will put in the chat box what LHLA means or what it stands for. We have Tanika Williams in the training. We don't know who you belong to. If you could let us know what agency is going to claim you so that we know what organization you're with. And we also have a Teresa Muhammad that we do not know who you belong to. So if you could put your organization in, and the acronyms, we all love acronyms. We all have them. We all use them. But I might not know what your acronym is. So please spell out your organization. All right. So we have talked a little bit about the metrics. I have told you that the metrics are not due. And I want to reinforce that. The metrics document is not due during the pre-qualification. The reason why I focus on it during the pre-qualification training is because if you can't track these metrics, then we are not able to fund you. Because what we had, before we went to common metrics, we had fruit salad going on. We had some of y'all reporting, and I'll just use the food agencies, food distribution agencies as an example. We had some programs reporting in pounds of food they were distributing. We had some programs reporting in number of individuals they were serving. We had some folks reporting in number of families they were providing services to. And then we had one program that was giving us how many groceries, how many bags of groceries they were providing to each person. So with 4 different programs, they're all working towards food insecurity, but with 4 different programs tracking data 4 different ways, there was no way for us to kind of boil it down to determine how our funding and basic needs was moving the needle in food instability. So we had some bananas and some apricots and some apples and some tangerines. We had fruit salad going on, and you can't get to common data with fruit salad. So that's why we have worked with you guys, our current partner agencies. We did not create these metrics on our own. We asked you guys to come to the table as our subject matter experts to help us with what data point we can track that's truly going to show us progress being made. And then we asked you guys to make sure that it was real life, because we all know that, you know, some data points, it sounds awesome on paper and you're like, yes, that's going to give us exactly what we need. And then you go to implement it and you realize it's really not doable in the real world because of HIPAA violations or because of this or that. So we asked you guys to help us make sure that these are metrics that can be utilized, common utilization. So when you look at your sheet, I want you to look at, and Angela, can you pull that up?
Sure.
It's just going to be easier if we have it pulled up.
All right, hold on one second.
Yep.
Nope. That's we don't want to share that part. All right.
Are we getting there?
Yeah, no, my computer's being,
Our computer's very fickle, y'all.
it's, no, it really is. It's all right. So let's go with health. How about that?
Sure.
Okay. And let's see if I can make that bigger.
Yeah, because it's looking kind of.
No, why did that happen?
It's looking kind of blurry there.
Yeah, it
Your
really
plus,
is.
your plus button up at the top.
Yeah, it's, you know, my computer's being fun.
I know.
All
Okay.
right, there we go.
Okay, so we're going to keep it up right here at the instructions. And this is the common metrics for health. So you're going to notice in the instructions, it tells you to place an X next to the goal. Those are the yellow boxes. And you can only select one goal per program that you're applying for. Some of y'all, a lot of y'all, have programs that might hit several of these goals. And if that's your situation, then you just need to look at these and figure out which one is the one that represents your program goals the best. Okay. Once again, any questions about it, call us. But you can only put one X in the yellow boxes. So you have to figure out which goal. Can you scroll down? Keep scrolling. Goal 1, there's goal 2. Keep going. There's goal 3, and there's goal 4. And each one of them are very specific. Goal 4 is mental health. Goal 3 is for the agencies that provide resources to empower victims and prevent abuse. Goal number 2 is in reference to independent living for seniors and or persons with disabilities. And if you scroll all the way up to number 1, it's just overall community health. That's where we're going to have the prescription assistance programs. That's where we're going to have maybe your eyeglass programs, those kinds of things. After you have decided what goal you're going to select, then you will put the total number of volunteers that supports the health program that you're seeking funding. And that's going to be in the white underneath of every goal. So if you do goal number 2, there's going to be a white box for your volunteers right there. Now, we know that COVID has completely turned our volunteer numbers upside down and inside out. So if you scroll all the way down, go ahead and scroll all the way to the very bottom of this document. You're going to notice that there's this box here that says, please use this space as an opportunity to provide any relevant information in reference to the numbers you have provided. So let's say that your volunteers were non-existent because you're an education program and the school district wasn't letting any unaffiliated volunteers into the schools. you're going to put that in there. You know, normally we have, you know, our normal volunteer usage is about 69 or 83 or 12. However, due to not being allowed in the school system, we have reduced our number to whatever. So this box can be used for not only your volunteers, but to explain any of the goals or the outcomes. If you want to say, you could use this box to say, well, you know, our program also achieves goal number 2, but goal number 1 was a better fit for us. So if you want to, it's your turn. This is your narrative to explain your outcomes numbers and your impact numbers to the reviewers. Now you're going to notice that there's different shades of blue. Go ahead and scroll up, Angela, please, because these are really good. Right there. That's perfect. Okay. So you're going to notice that we have 3 different shades of blue under outcome number 1 for goal number 2. You're going to notice that there's 3 different shades. 1, 2, 3, actually 4 different shades of blue. Each one of these shades is a data set. So if you pick this top one, you're going to pick you need to provide me all 3 of those numbers, because if you look, one's the numerator, one's the denominator, and that's how you get to the percentage. Does that make sense? So you have to provide the full data set, all 3 numbers that are required within that color, within that shade. You don't have to provide all of the outcomes that are listed under outcome number 1. You only provide the ones that are applicable to your services. So you might be hovering up here or down there where she's circling, the deep blue, and you might be the lightest blue up here at the very top. But you're not, these 2 in the middle don't really pertain to you. That's fine. You don't have to do all of them, but you have to do all that are applicable. And I will say that the more outcomes and impact you can show, the more likely you are to receive funding in a competitive process. So now I had told you could only do 1 goal. That's still true, but you can do several of the outcomes underneath of that goal. You might be able to do outcome 1 and 2, or some of the data points found underneath of them. So if that is you, you're going to want to actually provide those numbers, because the more numbers, the higher the likelihood that you are going to receive funding. A lot of the weight in the scoring is placed on the outcomes, the impact, and the data points that you're tracking. Are there any questions about this? Now, keep in mind, I go over this just so that you know what the expectation is. This is not required in the pre-qualification phase. You will not be required to upload this document until your application in July. Okay? Any questions about that? Debbie, yes, because we're getting ready to switch on over. If you could take us back, Angela, to my screen, or do I have to?
Yeah, you have co-host.
Okay. We back on the right screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So here's the training sessions. You guys are at the last training session. The deadline to have the pre-qualification application in is not May 10th. I am so sorry, y'all. It is May 27th. Please refer back to your timeline. Don't pay any attention to this May 10th. It is May 27th at 4 p.m. So are there any questions about the overview, the timeline, the GMOA, or any of the documents that we require you to upload?
So Christy, and Angela, it's very informative, right? But someone that's going to go through the pre-qualification phase for the first time
Mhm.
and taking documentation created by previous leadership, right?
Right?
So I'm not concerned about documentation. It all exists. While we were doing this, I have it all, right?
Right.
The question is, when you put it in there, it's your reviewers. I'm not going to be in a position to know if that documentation meets the needs or the qualification, right? Because once you hit submit, it's gone, right? And then it gets reviewed. Do we get heads up during the process? Once we get to the pre-qualification phase and all the documentation is there a back and forth at all between the organization, or is it a pass-fail type response?
It's pretty much a pass-fail because we have so many applications to review.
Okay.
That's why we go into such depth in this pre-qualification training, and I actually pull up the documents that we ask you to submit so that you know exactly what they look like. This is exactly what we need. And once again, this PowerPoint presentation, this whole training will be posted onto our website, as well as this PowerPoint presentation that accompanies it. So you will have this information for reference material, but I actually showed you what those documents should look like, and that's why we go into such depth.
And that's also why we offer ourselves up for work sessions. If you would like us to go over that before you hit submit, call us. Let's get together and make sure that that's what you need and what is correct. Just don't, like she said, don't come sliding in sideways on the day it's due an hour before, because we will not be able to help then.
Right. So utilize us. Sit down with us, talk to us, show us what you're submitting. We're more than happy to do that.
So we can review. So again, I know we're going to go through the technology aspect after this, but as I'm in the pre-qualification phase and I'm in the software, whatever it happens to look like, there is a way for us to review it simultaneously before submit.
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd have to call us and make an appointment, and make sure that it's not the day of, because we are, our hair is on fire the day of trying to get you guys through all the technical stuff. But yeah, we're here to help, and to provide whatever support you need to get these documents in. But that's why this phase is so important, because if you don't submit the right documents in the pre-qual, then you're out of the funding loop.
And we do have a question. Could you share a bit about the review process? You mentioned a consensus. Does the rubric metric use a point system?
It does use a point system, and we call it double blind, once again, because the reviewers don't know what their score is, nor can they put it in any kind of context until after the reviews are completed, so that we get to try to cut down on any biases that might happen with the reviewers. But it is a weighted scoring metric. Every reviewer uses the same exact scorecard, so that there is consistency. The reviewers, and you don't, it's hard to get consistency when you're pulling your reviewers from your volunteers. But we stagger the panels in such a way that we have some, touchy-feely people, and we have some numbers people on each panel. We also, I read and review every single application, review and score every single application that comes through, to provide that baseline. And it's weighted, and I will tell you that the most of the weight is on the program section and on those outcomes, because that's what we're really focused on. Did that answer your question? Or if you have a more specific question,
Well, hopefully they'll give us at least a thumbs up or a yes or a no in the chat box. We also have, yep, that answered the question. And as far as the work sessions, you do not have to attend either work session. Those work sessions we build into our schedule so that we can be available. And we were considering doing those, I think, via Zoom, correct, Christy? So that everybody could hear other people's questions, because if you have that question, I guarantee 5 other people do. So we want to make sure that we're available to you and that we have some scheduled time so that we're not rushing anybody on that Zoom with their questions.
right, and not to confuse, the pre-qualification phase, the phase that we're in right now until May 27th, you would be calling us directly to make sure that your documents are accurate. In the application phase, we actually have work sessions built in to the training. In addition to just the overall training, we have work sessions where you can bring your questions because you've already started your application, roll up your sleeves and say, okay, I'm having a difficult time doing blah, blah, blah. How do I do that? And those work sessions, a lot of great information comes out of that. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions about the overall, then I am going to pass that baton. She's here. Hold on. She's to my right on my screen, but I'm going to pass the baton to Angela, and she is going to show you the software and how to access it.
And Christy, we did have a question that just popped up about the education priorities. Will it be one of 2 goals? Do you want me to pull that up real fast?
I'm a little confused about the question. Please review the education priorities. Will it be one?
Well, I think that we went over the health metrics, but we did not.
We did not go over. Yeah. So the education is exactly. I mean, they have their own goals and outcomes and data points. So it's interchangeable. The example that I used for health, you just need to apply it to, if you're an education agency, you also can only select one overall goal, and then you're going to have outcomes underneath of that overall goal. But it's the same exact thing. I don't go into depth on this, like actually sitting down with agencies and talking about this during this training, because I don't require this document during the pre-qual. So if you want to sit down with us and talk about this document in particular as to which ones you might be applying for, give us a call. And we can talk specifics.
Do we have any other questions before we release some of you who have done this many times and start into the nitty-gritty of Community Force?
All right. So at this time, any of our current funded partner agencies that feel they are completely comfortable navigating the software can skedaddle. Y'all can go about your day, and we will see you guys later.
We appreciate all of you for hanging out with us.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to move on to Community Force. Christy, can you see the landing page?
I can, and I'm just going to direct everybody once again, on our website, there is that Community Force walkthrough guide. At the very top of that Community Force walkthrough guide is going to be the address to get you to our Community Force software. Both Angela and I have it bookmarked, so So in order to get to the software, you go to apply for funding. And scroll down. Here's a link right down here for the software, but it is also at the top of your Community Force walkthrough guide. And if you are new to the software, absolutely print this guide out. It gives you detailed step-by-step instructions on how to do everything within the software. All right, go ahead.
All right. So as Christy stated, we have the Community Force walkthrough guide on our Apply for Funding landing page, and print that. Christy makes amazing step-by-step walkthroughs. She does this for you guys, and I'm gonna tell you, it's saved me several times on the phone with some of you calling. So print this out, and then go ahead and bookmark this website that we gave you guys on your computers, because it's going to be your best friend for the next couple of months, hopefully. And so you're going to click on that. You're going to click on that right there, and it's going to bring you to this page. So this right here is our login. It's the home screen. So here we have a couple of options. If you are new, you're going to hit login up here. You're going to create a new account right here on the right. Click that button and go ahead and fill in this registration form. Give us your organization name. This cell phone is actually pretty important, but we do get it later, so that's all right. Your email is your login ID, and go ahead and make yourself a password. We typically, if we make it for you, is your last name with a capital letter, the first letter capitalized, I'm sorry, and 1, 2, 3, 4 behind it. So you're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to make your own password. Now, if you call me or Christy and you need help with this, we can sign into this Community Force. We can sign into this with you, and we can both do just like we're doing now on Zoom, and we can both be in your account so that we can better assist you. So you're just gonna fill that out and hit submit. Now, if you're a returning organization, you can just go over here to your login, put your email in and your password. If you forgot your password, go ahead and hit that forget password button. It'll send you an email, and it'll take care of that for you. So we're going to go ahead and log in. If you're new to our granting process, we'll click on, oh, nope, we already did that. Sorry about that. So you're gonna, once you signed in, you see here you have the option to choose the education application or the health application. Christy, which one we want to do today? You want to go with health?
Do education.
Oh, okay. So we're going to hit education here. And as you can see on mine, it does say continue with application or start new application. That's because we use this on our training.
So Angela,
right, hold on. Y'all can
Angela.
see that. I'm going to move that.
Hey,
Yes.
Angela, just
Yes,
so I'm tracking with you, right? I have education application, start a new application. This is the beginning of the pre-qualification phase, correct? There isn't a separate pre-qualification phase. You've just started it.
Yep, that's absolutely correct.
Right, because as I looked at this, I thought this was the beginning of the application phase, and I thought there was a separate pre-qualification button, but you're saying it's built in. If I'm applying for education, the
Yep.
pre-qual is part of this.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The
so,
application
and we're,
merged too. Jim.
yeah, we'll go over that. So right here, you would click on education, it's going to bring you to a page and you're going to see continue with application and start new application. We're going to hit start new application. And when you do this, there's this message that pops up. This application allows you to submit multiple requests. So what we do is in this description box, we ask you to put the program name. So that way, if you're submitting for 3 separate education programs, we know which account or we know which application you're working on, and so do you as well. So you would just go in here and put summer camp for whatever your organization is, the name of your summer camp, and hit apply. Once you do that, it's going to bring you to your dashboard. So here on your dashboard, you're going to see up here that in my applications, I'm on an education application. You're going to see here that I have a deadline for submission of May 27th at 4 p.m. So that's a good reminder. This kind of welcomes you to the process, gives you deadlines here if you read through it. And it also reminds you that everything that you upload needs to be in that PDF format that Christy was talking about earlier in the training. So down here, you're going to see we have these 2 boxes on our dashboard. One is for your pre-qualification checklist, and one is intent to submit.
Hey, Angela, I'm gonna stop you 1 second because we had found a I don't want to call it a glitch. It's not a glitch. But as soon as you guys open this dashboard, go ahead and click on your intent to submit.
Yeah, that's what I was about to go into, but I wanted to point out the 0%.
Well, let's circle back to that. Go ahead and scroll down. As soon as you open your application, you're going to want to go ahead and put your program name in here too. That way, you don't need to do the goal quite yet, but as soon as you open your application, you're going to want to put your program name in your intent to submit. So save and return.
Come on. Here we go.
So now you see, because there's only 2 questions in the intent to submit, you're going to see that you're at 50% on this icon. And that's because there are only 2 questions. But the reason why you need to go into your intent to submit immediately, go ahead and scroll up. Keep going. Click on the My Applications button. Yeah, see, so your summer camp pops up here, up at the top, and click on My Applications. So it's also going to show right here, summer camp, so that we know that this is your application. Now, a lot of times, folks, especially if they're new to the software, they will call us in a panic and say, I just worked 4 hours on our application and none of the data is in there. My answers are gone. My documents that I uploaded are gone. If that's the case, then when you were coming into the software, you clicked on start another application. So if you pull up your application and it's blank, then you've created several applications and you need to go back to this screen, My Application, find your summer camp, and then click on it. And then scroll down. And this is the one that that you are at 50% in the intent to submit.
Christy, let me ask you a question. I did exactly what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And my intent to submit says 100%.
Did you put the goal?
Yeah, I chose a goal, yes.
Yeah. See, we're at 50% because we didn't choose a goal.
Gotcha.
See, so when she does that, go ahead and click on a goal, Angela.
Then it goes to 100%.
Scroll down. Now we're at 100% because we answered both questions
Yeah.
in that icon.
But again, I want to be clear. Now you've started the application process, and the pre-qualification is still in. Like when you see pre-qualification checklist, is that where we're going next? Or
Yeah.
oh,
Yep.
okay, all
Yep.
right.
So go ahead and click on that, Angela. And you notice that we're at 0% on that.
Got it.
So when you click on your pre-qualification checklist, this is going to mirror that pre-qualification checklist that we have on our website, the paper version. So down here, you're gonna scroll down. You're gonna put all your agency information in. Executive directors, please, 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 don't just give me your extension under cell phone. It is really important that I have your actual cell phone number. I promise I won't prank you on the weekends and at 3:00 a.m., but I do need to have a direct line of communication to you as the executive director. So please make sure that that cell phone number is your cell phone. There might be some issues on site visit day, or there could be some issues with your application that I need to get a hold of you immediately to prevent something from happening. So please, please put your cell phone number in there.
All right, you want me to take back?
Yep, go ahead, take it back.
All right, sorry, I was watching the chat box because I'm used to doing that part. So you'll notice here that, again, we talk about the board terms. This is just extremely important so that we know who we're sending these funding emails to and all of those things. So just make sure you're putting your beginning and your ending year. You're going to scroll down here, and this is where your pre-qualification checklist starts for uploading documents and whatnot. So here you're going to see that you only have yes answers. That's because if one of the answers, if you come across a question and your answer is no, then you might not qualify for our funding, and you need to reach out to us so we can just make sure we clarify with you why that answer is no if you have a question. You're going to see here that you have a browse button for anything that you need to upload. So it's important to keep in mind that this software can only hold, I think, Christy, you said 10 megabytes or less?
Mm-hmm. Which is industry standard.
Okay, and anything bigger, Christy has stated before that you need to save that as a draft, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there are different quality that you can save documents in. Some of y'all's 990s are really long. Our 990 is really long. You just have to save it in a lower quality so that it's a smaller file size if you run across that.
So you're gonna hit browse. It's gonna bring you to your documents, and you can find your folder, whatever it is you're looking for here. Click on
Let me
something.
stop here 1 second, Angela. What we recommend is that you go ahead and create a United Way grant folder on your desktop or wherever. And all the documents that you're going to need, just dump into that folder. That way they're all in one location, so that when you're working on your application, you have one file to go to.
All right, so we're going to click on a document and hit open, and you're going to notice that it just downloaded it here for me. And if you need to remove this document, say you clicked on the wrong button, just go ahead and hit remove and it'll disappear. So we're going to put something back there so we can have it in a minute. So you're going to continue to scroll. Notice again, only yeses. If you can't answer yes, we need to talk.
Anytime you see a browse, it's something that you need to upload.
Yep, you need to upload on every one of these. You'll see a browse here. Another browse here for your 990. And
now you're going to notice also that every one of these browse buttons are the actual things that I went over in the overview. We went over the proof of insurance. Every document that you are required to upload is on your pre-qualification check, the hard copy of your pre-qualification checklist.
All right. And the 2023 counterterrorism compliance form is right here for you to download. Anytime that we have a document that we need in a certain format, we're going to have it here under please download in the blue link that you can click. It'll download on your computer. And when you open that, you're able to print this out, fill it out, and then scan it back into your computer so that you can upload that document right here below. So right here, you're going to see that these are highlighted. This is in your bylaws, and this just makes it easier for our reviewers to find this information. So they're just asking you to highlight to highlight where the terms for members is, or the required meetings for your organization. I'm going to continue to scroll, hitting yes on everything, hopefully. And you're going to see here that we have big bright red stop. This is, please do not place your electronic signature before you have gone through all of your documents. Everything is uploaded, and you and your board chair have approved your pre-qualification or your application. Once that's done, you can hit yes here, electronically sign your name, and you're going to place a date on there. It's also going to be done by your board chair. And in a minute, we're going to show you how to add them so that they can do that. So we're going to hit save and return to dashboard.
So I'm going to stop you for 1 second there, Angela. Okay, so we have a lot of agencies that'll call me up and they'll say, okay, so my board chair isn't all that computer savvy. Can I sign this document for him? The answer to that is no. This electronic signature is their signature. And why we require your board chair to sign off on this application is A, so we know that you're submitting this application with full knowledge of your board. And B, so that you have somebody else that is putting a set of eyes on these documents to make sure that you're uploading the proper documents. Because once again, if you upload your, I don't know, your license, your business license, as opposed to your 990, which we have had people do, then that could deem you ineligible for your services. So the board chair has to be the one to come in and sign these documents, to sign off on the fact that they have reviewed the documents attached and reviewed your answers, and they've done a quality control check on it. Is there any questions about that, the electronic signature?
So Christy, you said they will need to come in. I'm assuming Angela is now going to explain to us how we can send it to them if they are technically proficient.
Yep.
Got it.
She's going to walk you through how to add a collaborator, which every single one of y'all will have to do. You're going to have to add your collaborator, your board chair, as your collaborator, so they have access to this information. And when your board chair pulls up their dashboard, they're going to see everything that you see, because you're going to give them permission for both of these. And then you're also going to add collaborators for your staff, like your program manager. You might want to have your program manager to have access to the program portion of the application, but not the organizational portion of the application. And you have full control over, you as the executive director have full control over what staff have access to this and what sections they have access to. It's also going to tell you, it's going to timestamp it, so you know that your program manager had modified this application this morning at 10 o'clock. So they've done their portion. Now you can go back in. So she's going to show you how to add collaborators right now.
All right, so I saved that one document that I uploaded. So you see I went from 0 to 2%. So this dashboard is just going to be your best friend. It's going to keep you on track, and it's not going to allow you to miss anything. So in order to add a collaborator, since we're talking about that, you're going to come up to the top of your screen and you see this choose action button. You're going to click on that drop down, and in your view, you're going to be able to see add collaborator, preview application, and import responses from existing applications, which we'll go into in a minute. So here you're going to hit add collaborator. So once you get to this screen right here, you're going to hit add collaborator again. Now, here you're going to type in the last name of the person that you would like to add. And see, who should we go with today, Christy?
You can put me in there.
All right. We're going to hit Turner. Oh, not going to find it that way.
It's not going to find that now.
No. So I just put her last name in and hit enter. And it's going to give me, I have 3 to choose from. So now I got to figure out who I'm working with. Which one are you today, Christy?
I'll be Chris Hale at Yahoo.
All right. So you see here on the left, you have the option to hit add. It's going to ask you, this software is very good about making sure that you know what you're doing and you agree with what you clicked on. So it says collaborator added successfully. Great, thank you. So here is where a lot of people are going to get stuck. People will hit add and then walk away. Unfortunately, you're not done yet. So you need to go to assign section, correct, Christy?
Yes. So you've given me the ability to work on the application, but you haven't told the system, well, what sections do you want Christy to have access to? So what she's doing right now, you click on the sections that you want to assign.
So since you're you need them to sign your pre-qualification application, you're going to choose that box over to the left of pre-qualification checklist, and then come over to your collaborator and choose your drop-down box. And I need to add her, add Christy. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to come here and hit save. Now an invitation, when it says invitation successfully sent, that sent that to her email. So she now has an email in her mailbox that says that she has been invited as a collaborator to this application. So when she comes back out, or when I come back out, I've assigned her a section, and she's now able to do that. If you hit add collaborator and say you put in a name that does not pop up, you're going to come over here and hit add user, because not everybody's going to be in our system quite yet.
Right. Now, if you have the same board chair, if you're a returning agency and your board chair hasn't changed, then they're going to pop up like my name popped up, because they're already in the system. And then it's much easier. But if you have a new board chair, then you're going to do the add collaborator and then put in their information, and then they will be sent an email. And let me just, while she's doing that, I want to tell you guys that let your board members know the invitation. It's going to say invitation for filling the application. And it's going to come from admin@communityforce.com. So it's going to say, hi, congratulations. Christy Turner added you as a collaborator to the application. Click here. And it'll take your collaborator to the application.
All right. So I filled out the information. I do not want to include them in communication, because if I click that little box that says include in communication, that's going to give them everything that you get and everything that you're working on. So right now, I'm not ready for that. So I'm not going to click that box. I'm going to hit add. All right. Let's see.
It's the email.
Yep. Saw that. Wow, we've used a lot of these people. All right.
Make one that doesn't exist.
Okay.
Just put a ABC at.
All right. So it now tells me that I have successfully added our new person here. And then I can go back through the steps of assigning a section to this person. Gonna assign it to Zeke here. And an invitation was sent to the email that I entered.
So now for your board chairs, you're going to be giving them access or assigning them both the pre-qualification checklist and the intent to submit. They need to be able to have access to both of the icons in the pre-qual in order to do that quality check.
And this is what she's saying right here. It's the same as we did above. So now it's going to tell you.
Yes. So now the email that your collaborator is going to get is going to take them to set up a username and password, and then they'll have access to everything that you grant them access to.
All right. So now that we've added a collaborator, we're going to come back up here to the top of your screen and go back to the education application, because we're done in collaborations. And you're going to click here. You can choose action again. Say you'd like to preview your application, because I want to check and make sure that everything I've done is correct. You can either do that on your computer if you're more comfortable, and it'll just let you scroll through every piece of information you've put on here. Or you can hit your print button. I'm more of a paper person. I think Christy's more of a computer person. So that's up to you.
And do me a favor, Angela, go all the way to the bottom of this. I want to show them something. So at the very bottom of this print preview, all of the application or all of the documents that you attached are going to show here. So if you're going through and checking, doing your quality control check for your attachments, go to the print application, and all your attachments are going to be listed here, so that it just makes it quicker.
All right. So we're going to go back up to the top, and we're going to get out of that. And again, with choose action, the import responses from existing applications. This is a very useful tool if you are, say, with the YMCA and you're going to submit 3 programs in education. You're going to be able to fill out your organizational information once, and then you can hit import responses from existing application. And I can import from an application that I started already.
Now, this feature is really helpful in the pre-qual portion, because at the pre-qualification portion, all we're really looking for, we're looking for mainly organizational information at this stage to make sure you're eligible for funding. So you can, that button is extremely useful in the pre-qual, because it doesn't matter what program you're submitting, you're still going to have the same board list, you're still going to have the same 990, you're still going to have the same Secretary of State letter, you're still going to have all the same stuff at the organizational level. So once you do it once, and if you are submitting multiple programs, you go to that choose action button and import responses, and then it's going to dump all of the information that you put in your first application into your second application. Then you just go to your intent to submit and change the program name.
So Christy, again, to get through the pre-qualification process, you really only had to choose one program, and you have the ability to add 2 additional under education, or no?
Yes, you could submit as many programs as you have under education. You could submit 3
Well,
under.
I guess my question is,
Christy,
just to
he's
get through the
asking if-
pre-qualification, if I only chose one, because I'm still evaluating what I
Mhm.
want to submit for, I'm going to be good to get through the pre-qualification. And then as I go to the formal application, after you communicate to me on June 24th that it's been, that I can now go to phase 2, then I can add programs, or no?
No, you need to add them here. If they're not added in the pre-qualification, then we don't review them for funding. So you have to go in and add, and if you're submitting 3 programs, then you're going to do this 3 times. You're going to do 3 intent to submits, and you're going to do 3 separate applications. And then you're going to import your responses, because what we need to know is the intent to submit gives us the program name and the program goal. So if you don't do that in the pre-qualification, then those other 2 programs would not be reviewed for funding. You have to create separate applications at the pre-qual in order for all 3 programs to make it into the second round, into the application phase. So you need to create an application per program that you're submitting funding for.
Does that answer your question?
Does that make sense?
Think so.
All right. So once I've chosen to import, it's going to just put the system message up to remind me to review all of the sections to make sure that that's the information I actually wanted in there. So now I'm at 5% and 100%. So I'm going to come up here and hit final review and submit.
And it's
telling me
nope.
that it's telling me that I can't do that because I'm only at 5% on one of mine. So it's gonna alert you on everything that you do to remind you when and where you're missing something. So if we go back to my applications, oh wait. Log out. All right. So if I left, I came back. I'm going to log back in so that you can see now you've got that continue with application and start a new application. If you have started an application already, please do not hit that start a new application button, because if you do that, it's going to look like you're submitting multiples. We want you to come in here and hit continue with application.
Unless you're doing what Jim had asked about, and if you're submitting multiple programs, you would come in and click on start a new application if you're submitting multiple programs for funding.
Right. I'm sorry, I needed to be more clear. I should have let you know that, I came back from lunch and I'm going to finish working on what I started this morning with that application. So I'm going to come in, and now I don't see my there it is, my summer camp right
Yep.
here. And I want to work on that again. So I'm going to choose my summer camp, brings me back to my dashboard. And I'm going to go back into pre-qualification and start putting in some more information so that I can finish up with my application and get that submitted. All right, Christy, is there any?
Well, that's, so I'm gonna, that's not that intuitive, right? So I have an application started
Mhm.
under education,
Mhm.
right? When I go back into it, the one education comes up, right? If you click on if you click that, Angela, right? That,
Right, so if I'm right here and I
Yep.
click this,
yep. Now continue with application.
and I want this one, I know that I'm working on summer camp right now.
Right.
So I'm gonna go to the summer camp link and click it.
My point is I only had one on there, right? You have multiple, but that's because I only chose one to apply for.
Right, right. If you had applied for 3 different programs, Jim, you would have 3 different applications right here.
So then I
One
have to
may
go
be
back in, I have to go back in and apply for a second one under a second title, and it'll give me 2 up there the next time.
Right,
Correct.
That's just not as
your-
intuitive. Okay.
Yes, that's your intent to submit. That's gonna keep giving you a new one and start new application, intent to submit with that program name. And then when you hit continue with application, you're gonna get the same thing I am. We've done this training before, so I have my test 1, my test 2. Today I didn't want to test anything, so I went with summer camp. Does that make more sense?
Yes, thank you.
yeah,
Okay,
so
you're
all your
welcome.
programs, if you're submitting multiple, will, once you click on the start new application for each one, they're gonna be listed here for you. So then you could maneuver between them. My recommendation is that at the pre-qual, go ahead and fill out the application. And then wait till the application is filled out and everything is uploaded before you start doing your other applications, because then you can import responses and have all that information slid over. And then all your board chair is doing is reviewing the applications and then signing that they have reviewed them.
Right, so I just went in and hit start a new application. This is for swim lessons. So I'm gonna apply for that, and I can come down here, and once I have my intent to submit, we're gonna put swim lessons down here as well. Return to our dashboard. And I can come up here and go to import responses from existing application. And we'll import from this one. And it's making sure I want to do that. I do. I'm updated. And now yours over here would be 100%.
So it's gonna, because our original one that we imported from was only at 5% in the pre-qualification checklist, this new one is also at 5%. That's why I recommend you do one whole application, attach all the documents, and then create, if you're submitting multiple programs, then create your new program and import responses. Create your new program, import responses.
So Christy, sorry to be so detailed. So now I have 2 in there, right? But the tag, how I tagged them, it has no reference to you folks, right? My tag description is for my own knowledge.
It's actually for both our knowledge. So if I'm reading, if I know that you've submitted for 3 applications and they have all the same program name, I'm not going to know the difference. So that tag is extremely important for what you're doing, what you're asking for, and what we're reading.
Right. The tag and the intent to submit, the name of the program under intent to submit should be the same. That way you could direct us. Oh, I'm working on my summer camp program, or I'm working on my swim lessons. And we know exactly which program to click on to walk you through.
Thank you.
All right, Christy, is there anything else?
Don't believe so. I think you were pretty thorough in this, and I can't say enough. You know, if don't stress out. If something happens that you don't understand, you have that walkthrough, the community force walkthrough that is very detailed. It has arrows. It gives you everything that you're going to need to navigate. Pull that document up, look through it. If you're still unclear, give us a call.
Christy, I apologize, but I'm sure I'm asking questions people want to ask. So now I have 2 in there, right? So I, in essence, have to do 2 pre-qualifications.
Correct, but you're not really doing 2, because if you go to your second one and you import your responses, all your responses from the first one are going to be dumped into your second one.
Got it.
But
But then
you
your
do
chair,
have
your
to-
board chair has to sign off on both.
Yes, and you do have to final review and submit on all of the programs that you want funded.
After they've signed.
Yes, after they've signed. So when you go to your review or your final review and submit after your board chair is signed and after you have signed, then you're gonna do that review and submit for all 3 of your applications. If you have 3, or all 2, both of your applications, if you're submitting 2 programs. If you're only submitting 1 program, then you only do 1, of course.
Thank you.
So here I pulled up the walkthrough just so you guys can see it. It's very detailed. She does snapshots of the screen, and then she adds her awesome arrows to point out each step as you go along. And so this might be able to answer some questions as you go. And again, you can always call us. We do have some questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Let's see, thumbs up. We can call and talk to you about a couple of these. Jackie says, I'm not new to United Way grants, but with a new organization, which is a United Way partner, how do I sign in?
You would be creating a new account, because if you're with a different organization, you need to have all of your last sign-ins. If you use your same sign-in, it's going to give you access. You're going to have access to the other applications. You're not going to have access to you're not going to be starting a new identity. So if you would go in as a new applicant.
All right. We also have Steve asked, if I understand correctly, we have 1 week to submit the required information, yes or no? We do have the pre-qualification deadline. For those of you who are new, I think it's important to point out that Christy does this on the same timeline every year. And every year on May 1st, it's going to be populated on the website, and you're going to have that option to apply for funding. So I would mark your calendar for that date so that you can come back and you start May 1st with your metrics. Next year, it's basic needs and economic mobility. And you have all of you're going to have her timeline, you're going to have everything. So in the future, just make sure that you do mark these dates, because your site visits are always going to be around the same time based on, I mean, if we move it, it's a leap year, maybe a day or 2, or it's a holiday gets in the way. But it's always going to be the same. So keep that
In mind.
in the forefront.
Yes. Let me address some of the other questions. So I see one. If I understand correctly, we have 1 week to submit the required information, yes or no. You do have you have a week from today, but keep in mind that all of the information was populated on our website April 1st. This software opened up May 1st. So we actually give a full month for agencies to put their pre-qualification information in. I always have 2 trainings. I have one early in the month, and then I have one closer to the deadline. And unfortunately, if you are a new agency and you signed up for this training, The software has been up, this information, the walkthrough has been up. Everything has been ready since May 1st. And it said on our website, it does say that our pre-qualification phase begins May 1st. So I apologize if you're new and didn't have this information, but all of the information that we put out in the newspapers, the magazines, the Facebook posts, all of that, every information that we put out had that the pre-qualification period is May 1st through May 27th. So I apologize if you're a new agency and just getting that. But we always give a full month to do the pre-qual. And I think that kind of answers two of the questions, I believe. And I'm sorry, but we cannot modify this deadline. The deadline is set in the software. And all of the information has been accessible since May 1st.
And again, that's
Christy, the way the way I look at it, if you have all the documentation, right, which and you did exactly what you said, you drag it into a folder that says United Way application, that pre-qualification process looks like it takes under 30 minutes if you have all your documentation correct.
It does. It's quick. The system is quick with uploading the documents.
Yeah.
Once you get all those documents into that one file that I had recommended at the beginning, just dump all your documents into one file. It's quick. It's just going down saying yes, 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 uploading the files. And then the longest part of that really is getting your collaborator, your board chair, to
chasing down your board chair is going to be your biggest challenge.
Yep. That's
which I've already texted them.
Longest time. You're absolutely right. This should take about half an hour.
Got it.
Great, Jim, is that once you add that collaborator, that board chair gets an email.
Yeah.
So if they have notifications on their phone, they already know it's in their inbox. You don't have to get them in the office or anything. You can have them do
They're
it from
gonna,
there.
yep, they're gonna have that email directly to them to say, hey, you can now come into the software.
Yeah.
So just tell them to expect that email. And once again, you might want to send an email to them, letting them know that the address that it's going to come from is admin@communityforce.com. Because sometimes, if we get emails from people we haven't gotten an email for, it could dump it into their trash or dump it into their, a different file because they don't recognize the email. So make sure that you just let your board chair know if they say, I haven't gotten my email yet. Have them look in their trash file and also in their drafts, and sometimes it dumps it into the oh Lord, what's the bin that the emails?
Ours are other. Ours says other, where it holds it or it.
Yeah.
Where your firewall is doing something with it. But Jim, it's important also for us to mention, if you make it through pre-qual, the application itself is going to take a lot more time and energy, and you need to keep in mind that those dates that are on that timeline, go ahead and put them on your calendar. Give yourself reminders, because that one's going to take a lot more energy if you make it through.
Well, that's what I asked you the other day, Angela. At this point, if I get to the pre-qualification phase, that's when I can potentially use a third party as a collaborator to do this for me.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you're going to be assigning your staff. Your program manager is going to need access to the program icon, so she or he could go in there and do your program description and who your target audience is and all that kind of stuff. And your bookkeeper might need access to the budgeting portions. And but you as the executive director have full control over what access you grant to your internal staff.
And don't give them your login. Do not have them sign in under you. have them create their own account, or when you add collaborator, you're adding them into the account.
Right.
And only give them access to the portion that they can answer for,
Yeah.
so that doesn't mess you up on the application. Teresa, thank you. Yes, the word we were looking for was spam.
Bam, thank you,
And we
Teresa.
greatly appreciate that, because clearly neither one of us are thinking clearly after 4 trainings in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And if you're new to the organization, we do not send you credentials. I mean, I can, but you can go on there and just hit that create new account button and sign in that way.
Well, actually, we might need to talk to Kimberly. Kimberly, if you could stay after the training closes out so we can make sure that you're taken care of.
Yeah. Thanks, Angela and Christy. I have to jump. I'll
Yep,
call you if
we're
I think it's
Yep.
straightforward.
Yeah,
All
we're here
right.
to meet us. Thank you.
Once again, anybody that's on here, our phone numbers, my direct line is 843-379-3067. And Angela's is 843-379-3063. So if you need to reach us, shoot us an email or call us, please. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close if there are no more questions that you guys have, but we're here to field any questions you might have.
Thank you, Cassie. Have a good one.
Okay. Not hearing any additional questions. So we will go ahead, Kimberly, everybody else, if you would like, you could go ahead and leave the training.
And I can go ahead and
So let me ask you, Kimberly, your email address. This is the question that I needed to ask you. Has your email address changed when you changed organizations?
I didn't change organizations. I've always been with Boys and Girls Club of the Low Country. Yeah, I was hired January 4th of last year. And so the grant had already been written and Chris had taken care of that. Now he's no longer available. So I just need a way to log in. But even though our group has already received funding before.
Wonderful. So if you're Boys and Girls Club, what you need to do is have Jim go in there and you're going to be added as a collaborator.
Yeah, I figured that after hearing the whole presentation. So y'all did a great job, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't really think in the year and a half, I've been with them now almost a year and a half, but I can't think of any organization that's done such a comprehensive overview of the process. And as a grant writer, that means everything. I was a reader for the State Department of Ed and their rubrics. I mean, that's why I asked the consensus question. It's always interesting on the other side of grants to hear that process. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And the application training is just as comprehensive. I mean, we walk you through the different fields that we ask for. We tell you, the reviewers are really looking for this kind of information. So make sure you have both local and national statistics here. And so when we walk you through the application training, it's just as comprehensive.
Well, I took a lot of notes this morning. And again, I'm going to use those, I'm sure, a lot with Jim, but he's very supportive and we're excited about having him on board. But I think it's just because we're both new to the process.